This episode was called "Remember It." The bulk of the episode takes place on Genosha. Um, we have who is it that shows up? It's Xavier, Gambit, and Rogue all show up. And
Magneto,
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, who did I say?
Xavier.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's filling Xavier's role right now. Uh, and
Did Xavier ever feel up Rogue? Or?
Oh God.
oh,
No, that was the inappropriate joke. Thank you.
and basically, Genosha gets accepted into the United Nations, and then is attacked by Sentinels. What do they call the bug like one? Um,
Godzilla likes Godzilla Sentinel that birthed other Sentinels. Like you could say, like, oh, is that Master Mold? But I don't think it is. But yeah,
no, it's not Master
like
Mold. But there is a name. They have a name for it from the comics, and I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
Now I remember they had Master Mold in one of the previous episodes of the original series, didn't they?
yeah, but this
Yes.
is Master Mold like times 10, I guess. Just pure destruction. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Mega Master Mold.
It's like Kaiju Sentinel. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
it's crazy.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, King Kong and Godzilla are hanging out in the DC universe right now, so you know.
and we get a lot of death and destruction in this episode. God, I can't even think of everyone who dies.
Aren't they cleaning house again?
There's a massive fight between the Sentinels and Magneto, and he's using a chain as a train as a whip. That was a cool shot, I thought. Yeah. And then I mean, I guess the real shocker in the episode is the end of the. Well, there's a couple shockers. There's the whole the relationship between. Oh, look who showed up.
Hey guys.
Between Scott and Jean, and got very complicated in this episode. And then, of course, we got Gambit at the end. Oh my God! Talk about emotional damage. So
Oh,
we're talking about
are we-
X-Men '97. Did you
are we
see the
talking
latest
about-
episode?
The greatest episode of animated television ever put to
Hey.
celluloid.
I think.
I don't know.
Hey,
John, no, John, I don't want to hear your anime bullshit right now. Okay? I don't want to hear your One Piece full of shitness, right? We need to genuflect in the greatness that was X-Men 97 episode 5 and what it meant to me as both a father and a man and a creator, and why I
Oh my
sat
God.
there gobsmacked for a good 20 minutes after the episode ended because it was incredible.
I'm sorry. Oda, Akira Toriyama, and one would all would like to have a word with you,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right. So
But
And they would be wrong. I would say
They would. I'm sorry.
motherfucker, wrong.
okay. Wait, hold on, JD. So you running a little late.
I got pulled
We're
over
talk-
on the way back from Panera because I was doing my grad school work, and I talked myself out of a ticket, a written warning.
Oh.
But he did keep me there a good 12 minutes.
Okay.
So, my bad.
I did. All right. So I did a quick recap of the episode. And I didn't spoil it yet. Of course, Gambit sacrifices himself at the end to destroy the Sentinel that's attacking. Which, I mean, it was masterful. Like, I will say that it was masterful. But talk about, like, oh my God, that like hurt.
Not just Gambit, Magneto. You had Magneto, like,
Oh yeah, I was getting at that. That's when you came in. He was
you should yell
fighting,
spoilers, ma'am.
using the
fuck it.
train.
If you're
as, like, a
watching this
whip.
show, dude, if you're listening to our show, you've probably watched this by now. It's been
Yeah.
it's been 4.5 days. You know, get on board or get out. Right? You need to watch this show. We watched a lot of crap, right, from Marvel
do.
that they put out. We had a lot of crap, a lot of bad shows, right? And they're putting out a good thing. So I'm telling you, you need to watch this. Magneto completely redeems himself, right? For the first time, we've seen Magneto the redemption of Magneto for real this time. And you know what he gets for it? You know what he gets for it? Once in his goddamn life, for doing the right thing, for trying to help people, for being a good person, death. That's what he gets. Death. Like a hero. I had tears. Tears.
So there's a lot of theories running around about what this episode means.
Did you read Bo DeMaio's words?
No.
I retweeted it. John.
Oh,
did you
interesting. Yeah.
Did-
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So Bo DeMaio this is how he pitched this show to Disney. He said, I want to do 9/11 with the X-Men. He wanted to have that culturally defining moment for the mutants that changes everything. And he was inspired clearly by Grant Morrison's, destruction of Genosha, excuse me. And he also said his inspiration was the Pulse nightclub incident. Because he goes, I used to party at Pulse nightclub. He's like,
Oh boy.
I could describe the waiting room. I could describe every bit of it and how it changed me as a man when that happened. And he wanted to create that moment for the X-Men. By the way, mission accomplished.
That could mean a lot of different things because
They did.
because with the 9/11 stuff is what I'm getting at because we got the Patriot Act unfortunately because of 9/11. So
we might get something like that.
yeah, like I'm wondering if that's where they're going to go with this.
I don't know. I think what he meant by that was he wanted to generate a defining event, a defining tragedy that changes everything, which is what
Right.
9/11 really was for. We're all, I'm a early millennial, and you guys are Xers, or John's a baby boomer. So I mean, we were all. I'm on right.
Yeah.
So we were all of age when 9/11 happened. What life
Right.
was like before 9/11, and how
Yes.
things. I tell the high school all the time, like, oh man, dude, you used to just go to the airport and pick up your hang out there when their plane land. You have to tell anybody. You can just walk right into an airport. Like, you could get on a plane. Like, it was no big deal. You could just buy a ticket, get on a plane. They didn't search you. Like, in retrospect, stuff that yeah, we just let anybody on a plane. Like, how did we get those box cutters on planes? Well, it didn't fucking matter. You could just walk right on the damn thing. Like,
you could actually, like people would be shocked by this. Like you could walk on, like if you were meeting a child, you could walk on the plane and get the child after it landed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't do that today.
no, it's
So-
and in retrospect, it's like, yeah, we probably should have been able to do that. But I mean, nobody we didn't have a reason not to till that happened. Like, the world is different. It's been almost 23 years, right?
Yeah.
And the world is different. So I think what Bo DeMaio was talking. By the way, give him his. I don't care what he does. Fans, the man is as fuck, and has given us one of the best, probably the best adaptation of the X-Men ever. I don't care what he does in his spare time. He ain't hurting nobody. Give the man his job back. Like, he created a moment that we haven't seen really in superhero fiction, like mainstream superhero fiction, right? Because you get the snap, but we all knew the snap. Like, the hope was they would undo it, right? And they did. That was the whole point. We're to undo the snap, and they did it. The blip, the snap, whatever you want to call it. This is different. This feels like there's consequences to this, and that's what he talked about, is the consequences. And it wasn't
Right, and
it was humanity, man. It was just, wow, what powerful writing, amazing shit.
I kind of think that was the intent behind the first Civil War, the first Civil War comic was to give the Marvel Universe its 9/11. But yeah, like, that's interesting. There's a theory I heard that Magneto faked his death.
Would it be crazy if he shows up at some point again? No, it would not, because it's Magneto. But in that moment, the way the show is written, it was written as a redemption moment for that character. He was fulfilling what Charles believed he could be, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have it was really the death of Xavier's dream, is what we saw, and in that death, part of what died was Charles's vision for what his friend could be. And Magneto lived up to that in that moment, which is why it's so powerful, because Magneto was fucking right the whole time. Like, he was right. We shouldn't be with these people. We cannot trust them. He was right.
I mean,
What? Dude, I'm sorry. The Sentinel, the Master Sentinel came Morrison style, right? Total nod to Grant
but,
Morrison's run at X-Men
but
and wiped out Genosha. That's humanity that did that.
that's collectivism.
Probably the American government that did that.
We will
To
find
be
out
honest
more.
with
We will find
Yeah,
out
I mean
will.
that's
more.
the whole thing because I mean, hey, how many people claim 9/11 was an inside job just to
Well, those
make sure
people
we
are
could go to war?
Those
those
people are wrong. But
dumb. But
yeah,
I'm not a conspiracy guy. Sorry, Mike Gilbert. But this is the worst of humanity, and this is not would not be a surprise. They've been setting us up for this since the premiere,
Yeah,
right?
no,
They built
definitely.
they built to it beautifully, and like, man, what a great episode.
And let's be honest though, it's a comic book show. It's the X-Men. There's time travel involved already. Like, there's a
I
good
hope they
chance
don't do it.
I think they're going to reset that event.
Are
I
they?
don't think they will at
I don't think they will
all.
either. Mm-mm.
Because I know.
All right,
I've
I
seen
hate
a
to
lot
ruin
of-
this for you guys, but they did. Did you watch the mid-season trailer that was released?
No.
Okay.
What did you see?
They already spoiled something. They showed Gambit is still alive.
Oh, it's bullshit.
I expected that. I expect him and Magneto to be still alive, but as far as those other tens of thousands or possibly million of mutants that are dead, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
And the reason, and here's the thing, kind of really two things that people aren't talking about is a lot of people have expressed trauma with this episode, right? Like, oh my God. And I could tell that they're not comic book X-Men fans, and that's okay because I'm not a gatekeeper. I want you to love X-Men no matter what. But just so you know, like that meme with the guy getting hung first time, the mutants going to an island, being happy, which is what they've shown for the first 15, 20 minutes of this show, and then getting fucked is a trope. It happened on Genosha. It happened on Utopia.
Utopia.
Which, by the way, the Avengers helped with that one.
They did.
And it just happened in the comic books with Krakoa. In fact, it was Orcish who uses Sentinels and shit in Nimrod. They just fucked Krakoa up. They just killed Magneto, who actually, I think as of this week or last week, crawled his way out of hell. So when we talk about is Magneto dead? Sure, but for how long?
Right.
But so just, for those people that don't know this already, what just happened is unfortunately a trope of the X-Men. They gather on an island, they get fucked. And then, we all go, oh shit, Magneto was right. And we'll see where they go from there.
As always. Speaking of getting fucked on, what was your thought on them adapting the Morrison? They kind of they did the mental affair, but they instead of doing it with Emma and Scott, they did it with Maddie and Scott. And I wanted your opinion because I was moved by Madeline Pryor, right? Because she's a character that really got a raw deal in the comics. Like she was a victim of Jim Shooter just wanting to bring back the original lineup and doing the X Factor thing, and they just made her kind of go cuckoo banana crazy, when she's probably the most sympathetic character in the history of the X-Men. And I really love her arc here. I like that she gets to be her own person, and I like that her and Scott still clearly love each other and they have their son. And I thought they did not redeem, but they really did right by Maddie and made her own person, and they freaking killed her. And I was just like, it hit, man. That whole episode really hit me hard. I love how they adapted the thing that Morrison introduced with the psychic affair. What was your, as a hardcore, probably the hardest core X-Men fan I know, what was your thought on that?
Well, my thought is I thought it makes just a whole lot more sense because the way it went down in the comics where Cyclops is just like, oh, you're not the Jean Grey? Okay. It makes way more sense that he would have residual feelings. That is the mother of his child, the only other person on the planet right now that can have the psychic rapport with him. Jean Grey, the real Jean Grey, not even really knowing herself yet, them dealing with that. So I think not only was Madeline Pryor streamlined, redeemed again because she's not just freaking out as a scorned woman. I think it makes a lot more sense. Absolutely, I enjoy it very much, and outside of the Madeline Pryor thing, when we talk about redemption, you talk about Magneto's redemption. Some of you may see this as a stretch, but as a comic book X-Men fan, we talk about Gambit. This was a Gambit redemption as well. And you may say, what do you mean? Gambit never did anything wrong. Maybe not in this show, but in the comics, he did a brief stint as one of the Marauders. Specifically, one of them that was sent down to kill the Morlocks. And he did that shit. So in this episode, he was the one that saved the Morlocks.
Love that, man. Love that so much.
Yeah.
So when we talk about powerful, that was, for me, that was not lost on me. I'm like, oh, cool. Oh my God. You know, real time. I was like, holy fuck. You know, Gambit's getting a little bit of redemption here.
Yeah.
Is it me, or is this like the most heroic Gambit's ever been?
Absolutely.
I thought
Absolutely.
too.
Because I thought, you know, Gambit's lame. I don't even like Gambit that much.
Yeah, I agree. Gambit sucks. He's a look. Gambit is a look.
Yeah, and I also think he's kind of written as a very selfish character at times too.
Yeah. Because he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, like, because people are like that. That's a realistic character trait. People get selfish. I had a selfish moment today that I had to work myself through. So I mean, like, it happens. But I just thought the way they just delivered on Gambit worked. Drew says Gambit hasn't lived up to his cool guy hype. They gave him a moment. Yeah, I agree with that. And probably the most powerful moment in the history of the show.
Yeah,
going back to 1992.
And I think the other thing I was going to mention from the trailer that I'm looking forward to, they didn't show him, but they have obviously hinted at Captain America is going to show up in the second half of the season. So,
which makes me wonder where we're going.
Pitch him out, right? Because Cyclops just went apeshit on live TV, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Cyclops is in a mood, and if Captain America is going to come around after the fact, I don't know. I think we're about to see some more good writing. That's just me.
Scott was right too. Like Scott's whole little diatribe he fell into, he's 100% right. Like he saw it. And Scott, that's the beauty of Scott, is that like he's very much like the child of Charles and Magneto, right? Because he kind of straddles that line between what they are. Like he's not like, he can be as hardcore as Magneto sometimes, and other times he can be the child of Charles Xavier. And like he's a very interesting. He's almost kind of like the Batman and Bruce and Dick. Right, where you've got those elements, but you're still who you are and your core. Because I mean, Dick Grayson, that wound background, but he never fell as dark as Bruce did, right? And though Scott is essentially raised by Charles, quite as hopeful as Charles is, but he never gets quite as dark. Does like dark moments, but he always seems to find his way. He seems to always find, depending on who's writing him, like 60 years of a character.
I'd say Bendis wrote him dark.
Bendis
wrote him very dark.
Probably the darkest
Scott Summers. Oh, sure, absolutely, and that's the terrorist Cyclops, right?
Yeah,
like we're talking about Boy Scout Cyclops and terrorist Cyclops. Like that's
is that when he was wearing the overcoat in the comics?
No,
okay.
He had a big giant X on his face, and he was on a team with Liliana Rasputin, of course, Emma Frost, who, by the way, I loved in this episode because every time she spoke, she was being a bitch, and I loved it.
Emma's a fucking bitch, but she's our bitch, right? So I guess here's the question. My buddy Jeremy, I was talking with him about this. He seems to think that she's going to play a much bigger role in the rest of the series. Which would make sense.
I think it does make sense, and I think the way that we're kind of seeing Jean Grey and Cyclops split off a little bit, I think we could see a possible Scott Summers and Emma Frost.
Scott's trauma coming out of this because he didn't have the baggage with Maddie that he has with Jean. Realistically, like when that thing was working, it was Maddie that he was in love with, not Jean. And now Maddie's gone, and Jean is like, oh, Logan.
Logan,
so, like,
and I want to be the Phoenix and fly off and shit.
Yeah. Which is, like I said, it's made so much more sense because Maddie's like a far more homey version. And I think Scott's going to have some trauma on this. The mother of his child is dead.
That's an interesting point too, with the whole Jean says the universe was calling to her and she wants to go off and be the Phoenix, but she doesn't even know if that was her or Matt or Maddie.
It was, yeah. Jean Grey, like Maddie, does not have the Phoenix. So yeah, I'm with JD on that one. I think that is Jean Grey, Phoenix member.
Okay.
Because Maddie
All
never
right.
talked. Maddie never talks about that. You know, Maddie always like Madeline. That's the Madeline Pryor character. She just loved Scott. You know, and it's one of I find her comic version to be like one of the most traumatic characters in like comics history. Like this is
Yeah.
a woman who did nothing wrong. You know, she got
Right.
super jilted and then got turned into like a terrible, terrible villain. And like I said, Bo DeMaio and them just did such an amazing job with her, and like makes it sting. Like her death makes it stings so much more. It's just gonna mess Scott up, and that's the mark of good fiction. Oh,
All
I love
right.
this show.
Speaking
Bo
as an
DeMaio got
outsider,
killed.
speaking
What's
as an
that?
outsider,
Show.
sorry.
I was like, did you catch Bo DeMaio getting killed in the show? Like he was animated into the show.
No, I missed
See
that.
part? Yeah.
No, I
Yep.
didn't catch that.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
It did take my
John?
third watch to see The Watcher. Sorry, yeah, go ahead. This is
I had no idea. People pointed out to me the Watcher was there. I didn't miss that. I had no idea that the Watcher was, and then I saw the
right
screen
before
cap. It's
shit
pretty
went
subtle.
down.
It's pretty subtle, actually.
Yeah.
Very
It is.
easily to miss. So cool for not like going all ham on it and making it super obvious.
All right,
Sorry.
John, as an
Sorry,
outsider.
John.
As an outsider, you know, normally DC has kicked Marvel's ass as far as animation is concerned, but this sounds like between the writing, well, basically because of the writing, Marvel has really, you know, come into its own here. Like this sounds exactly like what I mean. You guys are hardcore Marvel fans, and this is like scratching every area for you. Apparently,
This is all I ever wanted out of X-Men content. But the secret sauce here, John, is Bo DeMaio has a true passion for the subject matter,
Right.
and you can tell. I mean,
they had somebody write for it that actually liked the material.
It wasn't they
Right.
hired someone. He fought for this. He pitched this to Disney. He went to Disney and said, "Hey, I want to continue X-Men 92." Can you imagine the look on their faces when that conversation happened? Like, you
I
want
wanna
to
do-
continue a cartoon that got canceled 25 years ago? And he said,
I want
"This
to
is what I'm
animate
gonna
on the thirds.
Well, that's-
like I want
That's an
to.
interesting. That's an interesting story about that. So there was 5, I think, seasons of the original series. They only thought they were going to do 4, and like you can tell at the end of the
Oh, the
4th
last
season
season
that was
sucks.
wrapping up, and then like they were like, no, we want to do it this season, and they hired a different company to animate it, and that's why it stinks. And then because it was so bad, they canceled it. But like, it really technically wasn't canceled. They just only ordered 4 seasons.
It kind of was canceled. But like, here's the thing: is that we give Disney a lot of shit for executive. We talk about executives being stupid all the time. Like, it's a talking point amongst our community.
Right.
You have to give Disney a ton of credit for having the balls to do this stuff.
Right.
I can't
Well-
believe this passed. I can't believe they greenlit all this and watched it and said, yes, like this is the most non-Disney stuff that Marvel has done. It's actually the best. I think it's the best thing that I truly believe this is the best thing Marvel has done probably since Spider-Man Homecoming, and it might be a
Well-
little bit better than that. Or Spider-Man Far From Home. What the last Spider-Man? I can never keep those straight.
yeah, one of yeah.
No way. No.
They're looking
Oh, yeah.
for something to put on Disney Plus to drive to continue to drive their membership. B, they're looking to bring the X-Men into the MCU. So, you know, I mean, there
Perhaps
may have been
one.
other
Oh, I love-
things that kind of helped this along, but it is still kind of it still sounds like it was kind of a long shot that it got greenlit.
No,
I
he's not on the show. Long shot. I said
Oh,
no.
geez. nice. And I know who Longshot is. That was one of the people. One of the characters that I actually
Yep.
liked. Okay,
Three-finger mullet man.
good one.
Oh, Kassan
right.
says, I wonder how much non-X-Men enthusiasts miss from the story because we don't have the depth of character background that you guys do. I wanted the show to be longer to allow character work. Well, that's the thing too, is it's a continuation. It's actually to shine at its own merits. So I'll finish that. Like, and here's the thing: is it's not. Excuse me. It's not a reboot. Like,
No, it's a continuation.
It's a continuation, but it's also a maturing. Right?
Right.
So I mean, like we were kids when this show was out, so they've allowed the material
It
to
grew up.
grow with us. So it got to grow up with us. And if I truly believe if you don't have that background, if you weren't a kid watching, like again, I was in junior high. Don and I are both junior high age when this thing came out. So I mean, if you didn't have that background, it probably doesn't land with you like it would with us. But you know what? That's okay. There's a ton of other adaptations of these. This is one of the things that I think steer in even more is that like something can speak to one part of an audience and not another. I think Hassan, I don't know if you've watched it or not, but I think that you can respect like how good the writing is. Maybe the character modes don't land for you quite as hard. Like if I just jumped into One Piece, like just a random episode that John likes.
Oh man,
and
no.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to. Believe me. But I'm like, I can respect good storytelling, but it doesn't work with me the same way it works with other people. Like here's a great example. I do not watch WWE professional wrestling. I have no tie as I wear my New Japan hoodie, bandana right now. I have no ties to anything. I have no emotional connection to it. But I know that the Bloodline thing with Cody Rhodes finishing the story is a good, successful wrestling story. I see what it means to the people that are enjoying it, and I see how much it's touched the people that have followed it for years. It's not for me, but I can respect what it does. I think it's okay for people who can see what in that specific 5 of X-Men has meant to its core audience and go, okay, maybe not for me, but it's working for you, so that means it's good.
And Dave, I know you're trying to move on, but
why? This is better than our topic for tonight, so might as well keep talking about it.
I know.
We got news to get to too.
Yeah. Just a thought though. What you said is actually kind of prescient because for a lot of fandoms.
Sorry, Steinway, I didn't read that first part.
For a lot of fandoms, the history that you have in the stuff that you've watched and read and everything actually makes the later stuff more interesting. So like your thing of One Piece, yes, if you jumped into episode 400 of One Piece, it wouldn't hit half as hard as it did if you'd watched 1 through 399.
Yeah.
And like the stuff doesn't hit me as hard with the X-Men stuff because I collected DC back in the day. I collected very little X-Men, if anything at all. So like for you, this is like, and I'm enjoying watching your reaction to how well this was written because I always enjoy hearing that something good got written and got put out. So
I'll also say that, like, another way to look at it is if you're not a reader of a comic book series, a great example, The Death of Gwen Stacy. If you've never read a Spider-Man comic and that's your first comic and you pick it up and you know nothing about the character or very little about the character, that death is not going to hit you as much as somebody who's been a fan reading it up until
unless
that
you're
point.
Dave, in which case you pick that up and go, something feels right about this.
No, stop it. I like Gwen Stacy.
Celebrate. Yeah, snap.
Spider-Gwen is not the same character. Jesus.
That's right. She has personality, unlike the original Gwen Stacy, who just bitched about.
You know what?
I've read those books, Dave. You cannot pull this wool over my eyes.
We're gonna skip social media madness this week. We're running long on this.
Thank God.
But if you would like to follow us on social media and be part of social media madness for next week, here's a good friend Don to tell you more. Thanks for watching this clip from the Superhero Speak podcast. And don't forget to watch us live every Sunday night right here on this channel.
While you're here, hit the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications so you won't miss out on any of our great upcoming content.
Speaking of content, don't forget to check out our website, superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast, links to our social media, merch, comic reviews, and so much more. That's superheroespeak.com.
Thanks for watching, and don't let your cape be caught in the door. See you next time.